On the Kaveri Engine project, the stalled project, when can we expect the indigenous aero engine with homegrown technology, part of Atmanirbhar?
So let me talk about the engine first, since that is something that even the Prime Minister mentioned in his Independence Day address. We are in the process of finalizing a program with a leading international engine house to co-develop a 120 kN jet engine entirely domestically produced with full IPR to be held in India. That is hopefully going to go to the top levels in government soon. It's a DRDO proposal, but of course we are all part of that exercise. So that will happen, but that will take about 10-12 years to, about 8 years to prototypes and another few years thereafter for certification, etc. So that process is underway through the through the various government processes, given the huge amounts involved. On Kaveri, I think the decision that DRDO has made is that since they have not been able to achieve the requisite thrust to weight ratio, they will use it for their UCAV program. Hopefully that will enable them to license that technology to private sector partners who participate in some of our UCAV tenders, one of which is out right now, which is for the male category drones. A mind-boggling number of 24 Indian companies with various partners have bid for that tender. I cannot believe, frankly, that all of them have that kind of capacity to make full-fledged aircraft, albeit unmanned within the country. But yes, there is a very robust response, and we hope that we'll get very credible, at least two companies or two consortia building those 87 male category drones in India, and thereby creating this larger ecosystem of sophisticated drones. Have I answered all your questions? Was there something else?
What the CDS spoke.
Oh yeah, the delay part. Yeah, so I don't want to. I mean, when I talk to HAL, I will obviously go after them about the delays, but in a more sort of open forum, let me say that the delays are not only by domestic manufacturers. You've seen the S-400s getting delayed because of the conflicts. Israel orders, also many of them are delayed because of the conflicts that they are facing. There are supply chain issues which have affected them in the context of the General Electric engines that they've been having to wait for. So yes, all of it is not solely attributable to our indigenous manufacturers, but yes, I mean, there is a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver, and we will need to start cracking down much more, apply LD clauses much more, and in the current round of emergency purchases that we are doing, we've actually taken a very tough stand that any case where delivery is not done within 1 year will all be foreclosed, and I intend to sort of ensure that that is done. So irrespective of who it is, which company, which country, we will foreclose every contract after 1 year. Hopefully those kind of decisions will start bringing in some level of accountability when it comes to delivery milestones.
Air Marshal, I would like to ask you about this 5th generation fighter jet program today. Where do we stand, and why is India cautious about buying, say, the F-35s or the Su-57s?
So, to start with, we have been tinkering with 5th generation program for a very long time. I think since about 2014, Air Force has been making the PSQRs and requirements in consultation with DRDO. And last year, government had sanctioned the development of advanced medium combat aircraft, which is 5th generation aircraft with 6th generation technologies. On request of DRDO, actually, they said they cannot directly reach. So, in between, LCA Mark II project was also sanctioned along with it, so that the technologies could be matured on LCA Mark II platform. Like Defense Secretary Sir said, engine is the important thing, and that government is going to take a decision. Now, your question relates to the gap which is there from now to delivery of fifth generation capability. There is some gap there. 8 or 9 or 10 years gap will be there. So to fill that gap, yes, we are thinking only right now how that gap can be filled. So that there are various options.
So what are the top? So what are the top 2 or 3 priorities that you have?
Means I cannot list the platform that we are still working out, but yes, certainly fifth generation capability, long range air-to-air missile, these kind of we have a list. We have a list which when my turn comes to say that, I will say that. But as far as fifth generation is coming, we are considering. That is for sure. But what we are not ready to open out as yet.
And about the anxiety that people have about depleted squadrons?
Yeah, depleted squadron anxiety is there. It is there with us also. So we are trying to utilize the resources in the best possible manner. That is, we have more simulators, so we are trying to reserve the flying hours. We are trying to train more number of people so that number of sortie generation. We have increased the sortie generation rate also. Means each aircraft will be used for 6 sorties in one day. These kind of things we are doing so that the amount of air effort required for a medium duration war we should be able to cater.
Does that impact on our combat capability at all?
That is what I'm saying. We are trying to move around that, rather work around that to ensure that the combat capability doesn't falter in any way. That is what.
DevSec sir, I would like to ask you, you have been associated with many of the studies and project reports where you have done a capability assessment and recommended a lot of projects for the services to be taken up. Fifth generation fighter was one of those when you did a assessment report for the Indian Air Force. Can you tell us about the status of the AMCO program, because you have been associated with it, sir, and I think it would be one of the biggest Make in India programs that we would be seeing in future. And what are the other major programs that we can see in next, say, 2 to 3 years, which would be coming to the industry?
Okay, so taking off from where Air Marshal Dikshit left, the AMCA is a fifth generation fighter program actually. There could be a requirement for some stopgap arrangements among the options that you mentioned. Those options are not ruled out, but as of now we are not in a position to reveal which way we will exercise those options. AMCA, the response is very, very robust. HAL is there, of course. I think they also have a consortium with some private vendors. Many of our leading Indian companies, including L&T, are there. The best part about that robust response is that many of them are a combination of public and private sector companies. And I've always maintained that India has to create this hybrid pipeline of public and private sector capacity, combining some of the incumbency advantages and the sunk capital and engineering manpower that the PSUs have with some of the efficiencies that the private sector brings in. And that process you will see emerge out of some of these programs that I mentioned. AMCA is one. The male category drones is another. Even some of our small arms orders that are currently underway, in many of them you will see a mix of public and private companies getting orders as L1 and L2. So that is the kind of landscape that I want to see, where you have contracts spread out across the industry to a mix of public and private companies competing with each other, sometimes collaborating with each other, and ensuring that our delivery milestones are met much better than they are being met right now.
Mr. Ramchandani, L&T recently entered into a strategic pact with US-based atomics aeronautics system for manufacture of unmanned aircraft systems for the Indian Army. How will this advance self-reliance in aerospace technologies?
And sir, added to this, you are tying up with a American company. Do you think you would be, how long will it take for L&T as a company to be able to produce similar category aircraft or a higher capability aircraft? How long will it take for you, sir?
So traditionally, we relied a lot on building our own products through our R&D. We see an acceleration in the procurement which is happening. And when we looked at, General Atomics is already supplying HALE aircrafts to India. And when we saw that there is going to be a large-scale procurement of MALE aircrafts, we realized that in the time frame, if we went back to the drawing board and tried to create an aircraft ab initio, it might be a tall order. So we were quite open to looking at partnerships to, address this opportunity. And what better than General Atomics, who already has the Predator, in service in the Indian forces. And the only thing when we talked to them, we said that, look, number one, we will have to be competitive on price, because Indian procurement at the end of the day still values the lowest bidder. And number two, that, like I said earlier, we're not looking at just licensed technology. We are looking at an openness to integrate Indian systems onto the aircraft, to adapt the aircraft for the Indian requirements, swap modules with indigenized or other modules. And they had an openness to that, which then gave us an opportunity to really look at how do we design for cost, how do we design for purpose, how do we, we're not just bringing a product and saying we'll license, produce it here. We will bring a product and make it suitable for the Indian requirements, and that has many dimensions, from cost to performance to, security and all of that. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to see how this works. The US, all that said, the US does have tight regulations on technology export, and we'll have to navigate through that. But I see an openness on both sides to do it. We've taken a plunge. We thought this is the right thing to do at this point in time, and I hope we will succeed.
Thank you. Before I go on to the audience, I have one question on drone warfare. Everybody is talking about that. Air Marshal, I want to ask you about the training program for young officers on these modern warfare techniques. And, sorry, a related question is that will the private sector also have to install these anti-drone equipment soon? Because we're reading reports that ports and airports and metro installations, they will need anti-drone mechanisms. Is the private sector also, I'd like to ask you both, is the private sector also working towards this to see that, we see this in hotels, in theaters, shopping malls? Would we need to do, is that what we're looking at in the future?
And sir, to Defense Secretary sir and Dikshit sir, sir, we saw that Asim Munir gave an open threat to the Jamnagar refinery of Reliance. So now do we see a situation where all the big installations, industry people, they install their own systems? Who will man them? Is the government working in that direction, sir?
So this is related to air defense, basically. Right. So in air defense, there is already a MHA directive is there. So for small drones, which are originating within the country, okay, small. So like you have a theater, you have a stadium, or you have a airport. So the drones come. It is more and to create nuisance and maybe later on some damage. So for that, they will have to install their own, but something which is coming from across the border. For that we are responsible, and we are armed forces are responsible. We are creating counter US grids, and we are creating integrated air defense systems, so that we will fully handle, and work is happening on that regard. Now in future warfare, these small systems which are attritable also will be used, and high performance systems, high cost systems also will be used. So there will be full spectrum. These small systems, low cost systems will create confusion, will create decision dilemma, nuisance value, all that. But they will not be able to decide the course of war. That is what we feel at this stage. If some new technology comes up after 5 years, then we will change our opinion. But today, this is our opinion. But they are required to create multiple confusion in enemy's mind and in his cognition. So I think people will have to install anti-drone systems which are against drones which create nuisance actually. People are doing it, and I think that is the
internal disturbance is what you're talking
about. Yes, internal disturbances.
Right. And to the private sector also, I'd like to ask this question. Are they coming up in the private sector, anti-drone technology? And how soon and should the private enterprises look at it, that we will need these soon?
No, so, we've been tracking what's happening in Sindoor and, what's happening around the world. And clearly air defense is something that we are invested into. So we, for example, make close-in weapon systems for the Air Force, which is a last level of defense against low-flying aircrafts or missiles or drones for that matter. And we are investing in a lot of counter-drone technology. Counter-drone technology varies from the very simple, just jamming and spoofing to more advanced hard kill mechanisms and all that. And we are looking at it. Now, if you are asking are we also investing into it to protect our infrastructure? Maybe not yet, but I suppose, we are alive to all these threats, and we will have to do what is necessary. How that mechanism works, whether it's through a government-run shield or it is something that, we have to invest into, I suppose these doctrines will evolve and we will respond to it.
The Defense Secretary?
So the Prime Minister already has announced on Independence Day what he calls the Sudarshan Chakra mission, and that is meant to combine both air defense with offensive capabilities. Work has started on essentially adding value to the multi-layered air defense system that we already have with more modern technologies. That will take some time, and it will involve a mix of Make in India programs, imports, as well as entirely IDDM type of programs. Whether the private sector can be roped in to provide resources in certain critical areas like Jamnagar, that's something we've really not thought about. Actually, as Marshal Dikshit said, this is really the sovereign responsibility of the government, and we should take that responsibility ourselves. I think that we have a committee under the chairman DRDO and under the co-chairmanship of Marshal Dikshit to look at preparing some kind of a DPR or at least a feasibility report of what we can do when it comes to this mission that the Honorable Prime Minister has already announced. Obviously, that's going to be a priority for us in the future, and we will ensure that it is fully funded from the CapEx point of view to ensure that India as a whole, all critical infrastructure, population centers, etc., are fully protected in a reasonably time-bound manner.
I think I'll go to the audience. Anybody, you can raise your hands if you have questions. Yeah, I can see there. Somebody, maybe can you hand over the mic? Yeah. Till they get ready, one question about HAL. What is HAL building today that we will see flying in the next 5 or 6 years?
We're building a UCAF, which is called the CATS Warrior. It's a combat air teaming system manned unmanned teaming. So this is going to be a wingman for the manned aircraft. So that's something which we're working on, which will fly.
When?
It will be ready by next year, and in 27 we expect it to fly. We have integrated the engines, and now we are working on the data links, and we're also parallelly testing it on the Kiran aircraft. So it will start coming up. We're also working on the UHM, which is the utility helicopter for the deck-based version. That should also be, it'll start flying this year, and in 2 years we'll be delivering that. And of course the future, the IMRH, which is a 13-ton helicopter, which is a slightly longer term, which will come into service the next decade. But the program has started, and we're building that helicopter.
All right. Question?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for doing this, sir. I'm Ayushi Agrawal. I cover foreign affairs for ANI. My question is for the Defense Secretary, sir. Sir, as we know that during the first week of December, India will be hosting Russian President Vladimir Putin for the 23rd India-Russia Summit. We know with Russia we have had a great defense relationship. Could you outline what can we anticipate in terms of defense cooperation? Any major deals in the pipeline, as there were reports that India is also seeking to acquire more S-400s. So if you could share some details, sir. Thank you.
I don't want to talk about specific procurement decisions. That is essentially, in a sense, giving advance warning of what have to be cabinet decisions. So I'm not going to talk about specific platforms, but we have a very large defense program with them, including the existing S-400 contracts, which are delayed, but which they've now promised to deliver the balance 2 batteries in the coming financial year. There are a bunch of other programs where there are delivery milestone delays, which we will take up with them and try to sort of expedite those, including and there are other major programs such as the Sukhoi upgradation. Potentially S-400 additional is not ruled out, but you don't expect any announcements during this meeting. The meeting will focus on the broader elements of institutional cooperation on defense between our two sides, and we'll try to ensure that some of these delivery delays are ended, and we start getting clearer answers in terms of when some of these delayed deliveries take place.
Any other question? Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Sachin Gupta. I'm an entrepreneur. So I made a summary of some of the discussion points, and we are discussing that multiple integrated theaters are now happening. Across the world, we are seeing asymmetric advantages being taken. Like in Russia war, they pulled away all the payment gateways, internet systems, everything. In Israel, they are using pager attacks. They are saying all phones, everything have access to Israel. Now, US has launched Genesis mission, which is now further pushing it into sci-fi territory, which is they are integrating space, AI, hardware, software, energy, fusion, nuclear, bio, everything. So, is this moving into sci-fi world faster at a higher rate, or is this something still that is more propaganda?
Interesting. Marshall, would you like to take that?
Okay, so the possibilities in the domain of cyber and space and also electronic warfare are limitless actually, because this is the domain where borders don't exist. There are no well drafted rules of engagement, and it is only your ingenuity which will work. So certainly we have realized that, and we had realized actually some time back. So about 4 or 5 years back, we had set up cyber agency, defense space agency, and now time has come to expand further these capabilities. And other thing is, these things cannot happen by only one department. So for this whole of nation approach has to happen, and that also government has considered, and that also is happening. But I am not at liberty to speak too much about that. But yes, this has been realized, and because of this is another reason we keep saying that yes, we have to become integrated. So integration is at one is that Army, Navy, Air Force and these domains, and the second level of integration which will happen is at national level. So that is whatever you're saying, we should be able to achieve in next, I think 5-6 years, we should be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a related question, but I asked you this, Mr. Ramchandani, is the same thing that this changing warfare dynamics that was asked about, it's multi-pronged. Do we have the workforce to understand the threat levels, the threat perception, and how to combat it? Do we have the workforce, trained workforce, skilled workforce?
So skilling is a common challenge, and we need to keep upskilling the workforce. But I think beyond workforce, when we are looking at the evolution of war and the induction of technology into warfare, I think what is required is the ability to innovate and research into the application of technology into warfare. And one of the good things that the government has done is to announce this deep tech fund of 1 lakh crore, where they are saying that, look, we are going to set up a funding mechanism of AIFs which will fund deep tech in industry, for example. So let's say we want to invest into application of quantum communication or something like that, and as a private industry we don't have the wherewithal to make that kind of investment, or we don't see returns quick enough, or there are risks with that investment because the technology is nascent, then creating a funding mechanism to support this kind of R&D, I think, is very important. We have, of course, the IDEX programs and all that, which again, encourage innovators to bring in tech into warfare and to create asymmetry from innovation. And I think that's an ecosystem that we have to encourage. And, lot can be done in that area if we can crowdsource the innovation of the average Indian and make them look at deep tech in a bigger way, then I think we've won the battle. And that's
a very interesting concept. I think we need a session on just that, on crowdsourcing. Defense Secretary, are we looking at that too?
I think the IDEX program actually does just that. And many of these services also have followed that hackathon type of model, where they float a problem statement from the services and then try to get people to solve those problems, build prototypes, and then fund some of it. What we could do in the future in terms of encouraging that ecosystem further is to give them a further assurance in terms of orders. Right now, the sort of funding kind of stops at the prototype level, and thereafter they're on their own, and obviously some don't survive given the lack of funding and orders, because many of them are either bootstrapped or they've not been able to get enough funding. So those are the things that we've taken care of to some extent in the revised defense procurement manual. For revenue procurement, we've actually put in a clause which says that if you've developed, say, a particular type of munition specifically for a service, then you have an assured period of about 5 years during which you will get those orders. Something similar we will do in the DAP process, because at the end of the day, funding the prototype is not enough. You will have to combine that with an assured procurement program to enable him to do a spiral development kind of a thing, so that he's able to sustain his model or his business model thereafter. That is the way we will take this forward.
Do subscribe to the ANI Clips channel to get shorter versions of this podcast. Click here to watch the full episode.